welcome back to Betton's Life to Fame. This time it took a little bit longer to do our session. Our first session was about really just trying to establish cues and communication and what they mean. That sometimes takes a little bit longer because I really like to take my time and not stress him out while he's trying to learn whatever answers that he's going to need in his life. So this is actually technically our third session. I worked with him one other time before this session, and it was pretty much around about the same as today. Again, I put the Pivo on to video myself, and I apologize. I'm going to try to do it on Jake next time. The first time we videoed, I put it on, or not Jake, Betton. I put it on Betton, and then Jake was over in the corner, and the Pivo caught him and just started watching him versus us. So anyway, as always, getting in there, just really starting to love on him and taking it easy to start with. So flexing again. So with flexing today, I figured, first of all, I started out with holding pressure, because when I asked for his face, he didn't resist, but he was putting weight into the halter, and I would rather him be as light as a feather. So until he gave, I just held his face. We did that both sides, obviously, and then he lightened up more towards the end of our session, so that was great. But he's starting to figure out that, you know, training's not all it's cut out to be. So I'm trying to make it fun and loving as possible, not stressful at all. And there's people riding around outside, so they keep catching his focus. But I'm just being patient with him, and I really like to sometimes, when I feel like they're just kind of stuck, I'll offer my hand out for them to just give to my hand and sniff it, and then release pressure. So kind of helping them out with finding that answer. I'd rather help them find an answer versus make them find an answer. So that's kind of the approach I am taking with that. And overall, I'm still pretty happy with how this session went. But it did take a little bit longer because I spent more time on flexing. I asked him to trot this time, and trying to keep him in a trot took a little bit longer, but overall it was pretty okay. He didn't seem too stressed out at times, and so really trying to pay attention to that. After all the behavior, equine behavior I've been studying and reading up on and all that, has really opened my eyes to stressful things and the impact it can have long term. And mainly the big reason why I truly understand how this can have a huge negative impact on the horses throughout their life is because of Jake. There's a lot of things I did with Jake that I shouldn't have. There's a lot of things I did wrong with Jake, and therefore I have put him in numerous stressful situations throughout his life. And now things never really did work out. But when I first started training him, I was younger, so I didn't really quite spot that. But now that I've learned and know more, I've really caused a lot of heartache with Jake. And a lot of his issues are from me causing him so much stress and tense in certain situations. And, you know, so bad training. A lot of people look at us and go, oh, we do have a really good bond. He's been a very forgiving horse, but he's still training wise. If you knew the real story behind everything, like all the holes we had in our training and all that, you wouldn't be surprised. So that is why with Betton, I have been taking it slow, learning more, and trying to take more of a easy approach and not stressing him out. So still working on flexing right here. Excuse me, got a tickle in my throat. So I really try to strive for consistency. I used to be very consistent, and then after having my daughter, I no longer am consistent. And so I'm really trying to really stay consistent with Benton and really catch myself. And there's been times when he did release and I didn't release immediately, or there's been some times where my cues have not been consistent as they should have been. So but overall, he moved around a little bit more with this flexing, but I tried to stay consistent. I tried to withhold my ground, and I'm not one of those people that if they don't give, you bump them in the face or you pull them around. I'm trying to take this, I want to give him the answer that he needs and then ask him to perform the task. And then if he doesn't, I'm not going to freak out about it. But there's a point in time where I know that if he knows the answer, then he needs to perform the task, if that makes sense. Overall, I'm being super patient, but at some point later on, you'll see kind of me get add a little more body pressure to him, and a little more whip pressure, I guess. And you'll see that later on, and I'll point that out for you. I am not going to hide anything as far as his training, because really there's no point. This is me trying my very best, and he flexed beautifully right there. And so trying to give him lots of rubs and scratches. He really likes his shoulder scratched, so I really try to stay true to what he likes, his shoulder and chest scratched. So and then sometimes if I get stuck, so at the beginning you seen that he struggled a little bit. He braced against me a little bit, and he wouldn't really give very well, and now he's giving. Sometimes if you take a step back to your approach, so instead of asking the face to come around, but ask for an eye to look at you, just small changes like that makes a whole lot of difference. And then just stepping backwards a little bit. So that, I'm going to try to do more of a stepping backwards thing with him when he gets stuck versus trying to push forward like I did with Jake. And now working on the backing today, he did really, really well. He remembered, he caught on, and now today was kind of just working on adding bigger steps, 1 or 2 steps, things like that. So right here I'm asking him to back up, and he actually took 2 steps. I wanted 3, so I kind of just stayed after him and stepped forward, and then we took 2 more. So that was fantastic. And then eventually we'll build and build and build and work on this to where when I shake the rope, he will shoot backwards. Not really, but I do want him to back better than Jake does. Jake hardly ever backs. Like, no momentum, no care in the world. Benton, my goal is to get him to back up, head down, and just really crouch backwards if I want him to. So those are things that we're going to work on. But of course, baby steps. So that was pretty good. So taking the lead rope off, and we are going to continue to round pin, or or desensitizing. I always like to desensitize before round pinning, but I also like to cut sessions. So obviously I start off with flexing, start with backing. If they do great, like we didn't spend a whole lot of time on backing like we did with flexing. So there's those things. And then Benton did really, really, really well with the desensitizing this time. He stood still for most of it. I was able to just go straight into the swinging the whip, and doing the 1 rub, 2 rub, 3 rub, and so that was fantastic. I even went a little fast, and then I slapped the ground a little harder, and then I started doing the swinging the whip a little faster. So all that just kind of went really well. And while he's listening, I'm still trying to pay attention to him and his body language to see if he gets super stressed. So I'm not just looking for a horse to walk off when they're uncomfortable. I want them to have the opportunity, but that's not the only thing I'm looking for. I'm looking for facial expressions, lip expressions. I am looking for his muscles to get tensed. All that while I am working with him to really make sure that I'm not putting him in a situation that is going to be super stressful on him. And of course, always going to both sides. He's such a good boy, and I'm very happy with how our sessions have gone. And I couldn't express how excited I am for when he gets bigger. So right there, he lifted his head. So that was some pressure to him. If I would have gone more, do I think he would have walked off? I don't think so, but eventually, yes. Maybe if I added 2 more. So right there, you see him kind of just get uncomfortable. And I'm trying to pay attention to those things because I want to stop the motion of desensitizing before he reacts and reward him for staying there, if that makes sense, and rub him and all that. So you'll see me rub with 2 hands onto his back because I'm trying to add just a little pressure, not on his spine, but on his longissimus dorsi to help just rub any tension out, make it feel good, things like that. And I'm not doing it hard. I'm just applying enough pressure. So being certified massage has really helped with figuring out their spots they love to be rubbed and releasing tension while applying it in training. So versus just, giving my horse a rub on the face or giving my horse a rub here, is actually turned into, let me give you a little massage here and there. So I really so the first time I walked off doing this, and now I'm coming back, but I stopped midway because he didn't react, and that was the first time he'd seen me walking towards him whipping. So I thought that was great. So I'm going to let him soak for a little bit and then ask him to walk forward. He doesn't quite really respond, but he ends up walking. So today, I think we've pretty much figured out that, walking's not a big deal. And then we really focused on trotting. So at the walk, you'll see me start to edge more towards the middle. I'm starting to try to get him to continue round pinning, but with me farther away from him. So I kind of just start to fade into the middle, fade backwards, and him continue to work. It did honestly get a little confusing for him. So at some point, I decided that was not the right thing to do right now, and then just continued with what he was doing, or what he was taught to begin with. And he had to poop right there, which is why we had stopped. Sometimes the most tricky part about teaching a horse how to round pen, especially young ones, is learning the cues and keeping the momentum you want. So, of course, they have to learn what the answer is before they can give you the correct answer. So, a lot of the times I just see most people usually just ask the wrong question, or they ask a question that the horse doesn't know the answer to. So here I'm trying to fade into the middle and keeping him going forward without having to follow him around, making him a little more independent. So here trying to get him to turn. I'm not specifically trying to turn him to the inside. If that is how he is positioned, that I'm going to give him the best chance for success. Now, if he's positioned towards the inside, then I'm going to ask him to turn towards the wall. It's not a factor of moving in or out for me right now. It's more so just giving him the best chance of giving the right answer. Again, today was a little different other than our first session. I do actually use the whip on him, but not hard. And when we get to that point, I will explain everything going through it. So right now I'm trying to get him just staying in the same momentum going forward. So my cues when I lunge are up or I kiss to keep that consistent going. So he's walking right now. I have a habit of pointing. So I'm pointing and I'm kissing to him to keep him going forward. But if I want him to either go up to a trot, I say up. Or we're not here at this point yet, but what I do with Jake, when I want him to decrease his speed but not stop, I say ease. So ease means to take it down a notch. So if he's trotting and I say ease, he should walk. If I want him to stop at any point, whoa means stop. That's very important, and not all horses actually know what whoa means. And we'll get that later on when we start doing more training with him. But right now, today is just about learning the cues, and we did add a little of the trotting in today, which we will get into, which is why this video is a bit longer than the other one. He's doing so well, and I figured he could handle a little bit of trotting today. We trotted once before this, and it was no different than today, so it wasn't that important to have to show y'all, I didn't think. But next time, as I said, I will put the pivot on Benton so y'all get a better frame of how he is in reacting and all those things versus me. So loving on him a little bit, desensitizing just a little bit, and asking him to go forward, so saying up. So if he doesn't respond, I say up and point again, and then I will go up, crouch, and point. So I'll say up and crouch, and then if they still don't move, I say up and point, and then I use the whip as a sound or just a motion, and usually they move off for that. Benton, since he does know the word up, he has responded to it before consistently, so I know and have confidence that he knows what up means. So my goal is really, instead of doing the up and crouch, I will do the up and crouch first time, and then I will do the up and use the whip behind him the second time. So increasing more responsiveness to my cues. So here I'm trying to get him to trot. Now I haven't hit him with the whip. He is trotting very well, and I will be honest, I think I lengthened, I asked him to trot too much. He wasn't ready for it, and we'll get into that later. But when I point and I say up, he does pick it up. I use the whip. If I point and say up and he doesn't pick it up, then I use the whip, and you can see I'm not like full-fledged just throwing it around. I'm just swinging it very relaxed like. So if he doesn't respond to the verbal cue up, then I'm gonna add the whip behind that and say up again, and he usually picks it up. So he's doing fantastic. Really, my goal right now is to keep him in a trot. So if he is in a trot, you will not see me use the whip as anything. Right here I asked him to stop, and he did great. So if he is continuing in a trot and I am pointing, you're probably seeing me kiss to him a little bit to keep him in a trot. So for the first time today trotting, I feel like he really did great. So right here, I'm just pointing and asking him to go, and he is kind of pointed towards the inside, so I am just trying to get him to go, and I am tapping him on the neck, but right here I am not hitting him. I'm doing a little more aggressive motions to try to get him to go without me actually having to touch him. And so right here I'm throwing up There we go. I jump, and I'm throwing the whip like towards his direction, but I am not hitting him at all. It's just in his direction, and he turned and walked away. So that's perfect. I let him be. I let him walk. I didn't get after him. He's still learning, and he's very relaxed and going in a forward motion. And the great thing is that he didn't stop. So I'm just following behind him again, keeping him in a walk, and then I ask him to trot. He doesn't. So I follow with the whip, and he doesn't. So there we go. I said it again, and he picked it up. And then he slows down. So really the key is trying to keep them in the gait. And of course this is going to take practice. And he has been doing really great. And my goal with this today was to keep him in a trot at least once or twice all the way around without him slowing down to a walk. And I feel like maybe I overdid that a little bit as far as what my goal was. We did end on a good note, but I think I made him trot a little more than what he should have. But overall, he didn't seem very stressed or overly stressed by the time we were finished, so that all in all, it was a good session. And I like to do lots of desensitizing, especially early on. But now that after this, you'll start to see that he's kind of gotten a little too desensitized. So I'm going to start lessening the desensitizing, but I'm going to start increasing how I'm desensitizing. So faster and louder for the whip, going in front of him, standing behind him, not too close, of course, but, different types of desensitizing, and then we're going to increase that. So here I asked him to walk up, and he didn't. I said up, and he didn't, and then he's not respecting, so I tapped him on the butt, and he didn't want to go. I tapped him again, and then you could see he flinched a little bit and then walked up. So when I mean tap, I just mean tap, like you just tap your leg. I do not try to use the whip as a harsh force. Here I asked him to trot, and he didn't. So I tried to use my body language to get him up, and it worked. I always try to use my body before the whip. So trying to keep him in a trot. Is doing pretty great. And of course, I apologize for you not being able to see him, but he did really well. He went one whole round without slowing down. So I asked him to stop, and then I'm asking him to turn since he faced towards the inside. Super great, worked out super well. I was very proud of that one. And then I went into asking him to trot, and of course I jumped a little bit, and so he went on. Like I said, I try to use my body before the whip and all my energy with it. And here he kept wanting to slow down. I'm pretty sure it was about here where he kept starting to slow down to a walk right around the gate. Jake is tied up next to the gate. And so I think he's starting to think, I want out of here, I'm done. And that's not what I want. But because he kept slowing down by the gate, my goal then was to get him around one round. So right here you can see he's slowly turning, and then he stops, and then he decides to turn. So that was a lot of work. Didn't really like that response, but we're getting there. It was better than the original one we had where I had to actually get to him. But here we're starting to resist. He's not really wanting to pick up as fast. And that is why I feel like I drug this session out too long, because as to where we started out, he was doing good, and now we're starting to resist pressure. We're starting to test my patience. And so at this point, I actually realized in the training session that he was starting to resist, and I didn't like that. I knew I'd pushed him too much, but I didn't want to stop on a bad note. So I tried to get where we could at least stop on a good note, but he kept stopping and walking by the gate. And so I wanted to keep that from happening. So right here, getting him going, asking him to continuously keep trotting, asking him to keep trotting. And then here, I try to nip him in the butt, not literally, but try to keep him going forward before he slows down. But he did actually slow down at that point. And you can see I'm starting to struggle a little bit in my body language. I'm trying to keep him going forward, and he just does not want to. So right there, you can see I actually gave a crouching position and walked a little faster to him, and it actually stressed him out. And he kicked out and took off. Wasn't the end of the world, not the end of the world reaction. He de-stressed himself pretty easily after that. But I would rather him have that reaction to that versus me actually having to use the whip. But you see it's starting to work. So asking him to go the other round, however, and right here he just really is not wanting to move over, and then he eventually moves over. So I'm not liking that response. I gave him a couple days off after this, so we'll see, and we'll continue our training afterwards and see how that goes. And of course, I'll video that one. I think he has a cute little trot. I absolutely love it. You see he's starting to slow down. He's starting to get tired. He's starting to resist. Eventually, I'm going to start increasing pressure little steps at a time. So instead of doing a 3-step of increasing pressure, so by pointing and using verbal, and then using body language, and then using a physical factor, as in using a whip or something, not on him. A physical factor as far as whipping him or actually touching him would be my last step. And that does not typically happen very often. And so I'm going to start decreasing those. So instead of using a verbal cue and then doing body language, I may end up doing body language and then a physical factor versus doing the verbal cue first. But, you know, it's a process. It's a process. So we'll get there when we get there. So overall, not very bad. We stopped. We took a rest. And of course, this is not the end of it. I feel like we probably should have stopped right here. But then I figured he was comfortable and did okay enough that we went another round. And I'm pretty disappointed in myself for that. But of course, showing love, rubbing on him. I like to do that a ton. Just rubbing on him and stuff. And he actually flexed better on this session. You can see that he kind of turned around. But I am not, like, the amount of pressure I am pulling, I wish I could explain it to where you would understand. I have a video of riding Jake in literally yarn or string. And that's how light, you know, I'm only picking up the lead rope and sliding my hand down it, as you can see right there. And he responds to it. Most horses do. Super awesome, super great. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for him to crank his head around. That right there is all I'm asking. And then we will build a little bit on that. I'll get more of a nose or more of a full face, you know. Right now, I'm not being too picky. And so, because he did good, I then took it off and we went another round, unfortunately. I like to, once I start trying to focus on staying in my circle, so when I'm walking around, I try to walk around the lead rope that I put in a circle there. I try to stick to it, and I thought I would try to do that. However, didn't quite work out that way. But that's my goal, is to walk around the lead rope and the horse stay on the outside. I don't want to be up close to them. I want them to continue work from me being in the center. And so, of course, that takes time. I ask him to walk. He don't want to, so I crouch, and then I use the whip, and so I tap him on the butt, and then he goes. So at that point, I kind of realized, I need to do a little bit, I need to do something different. So asking him to up, crouching, using the whip, and even using the whip, he still didn't. So what I did was try it again, and then he finally picked it up. So crouching, not doing it, whip, there we go. And I start actually at this part whipping the whip on the ground faster to make a louder noise. And so you will see that, but I have not hit him yet. So I will point those out. I will point it out when I and I don't hit him. I'll kind of explain it when I show y'all what I am doing. But he's not being as responsive as I would like. There I'm crouching. So up and asking, trying to use my body language and puffing out my chest, trying to keep him going really. And then he had to poop again. So, and as babies, I'm not the type of person like, oh, you can walk through that, you should walk through that, and like, ignore it. And that's not how I am. That's not what I want to do. So right here he's resting. He figured out that he's stopped, so I'm trying my best to get him going without actual physical contact. So I do kind of sling the whip around, and let me tell you, the last couple of times I tapped him on the butt, you could see how much he jumps. So when I do actually use the rope onto him, it looks a lot worse than what it actually is, and I'm not trying to justify that. When I say that I don't want to use the whip, I really don't. But we're going to be going back to square one after this training session and figuring it out. So there I tap him, and then he goes. So I'll tell you, I'm very disappointed in myself for actually pushing him to do more after we had such a pretty okay session. I'm pretty disappointed that I actually pushed him a lot farther. But, it's part of a learning experience. So I'm going to post it for y'all and be completely honest with you. He woes pretty well, which is fantastic. I'm all about horses learning what the word whoa means, because there's a lot of horses that you could say whoa and they don't do anything. So here I actually physically push him. And let me tell you, frustration begins when knowledge ends. Clinton Anderson said that, and that quote has always stuck with me because I 100% believe it. I find myself to get frustrated when at that moment in time I can't think of what else to do. And this right here is kind of that quote. I started to get frustrated because he's not responding well, and I don't want to use too much physical pressure. And it's just, I don't want to use physical pressure, but then at the same time, that's all he's pretty much telling me I need to do. So after this, I did take a step back, take a look at things, and so we have a different a different eye opener that I need to do. The beginning of the session, however, I felt like went really well. However, I feel like even right here we could have ended, and we didn't. I think I got a little too caught up in things. So you can see me, I'm just tapping his butt. And he's not even, even when I tap him, it's not like a freak out moment, oh my gosh, you see me jump at him and he's still not responding. That's why I was getting frustrated, because I don't want to use the whip on him, but I'm tapping him. And that's all the answer that he's really giving me, is that if I tap him, of course he's going to move forward. However, I don't think I am causing him any harm or pain. He's just, I don't know. I honestly, at this point, I really don't know. Reviewing this video has made me kind of look back and actually look at a lot of things I did in that training session and rethink a couple things. That's also why I started doing these for y'all, so that way I could see physically what is going on and change each session the way I'm doing things. So hopefully in the end, he is better than what Jake turned out to be. So, however, I will say I have a lot of plans with Benton, and he wanted to turn back the other way, and I tried to use the whip and take the rope and just kind of sling it to his chest, not slap him, but sling it to his chest so he'll keep going, instead of turning back around, and it worked, but you can tell that he is not, I don't think he's scared. He might be a little frustrated with me, as I am with him. I feel like it's a lot more of a component of, I'm not 100% sure what you're wanting me to do at this point in time. And my goal, again, right now is just to keep him going past the gate instead of slowing down. So, I'm pretty sure so when I swing the whip, when I said I was tapping him, which y'all have seen some of that, I was tapping him on the butt with the end. And then when I swing the whip around right there, I actually laid it down on his butt. So I swung and then I stopped it and it like just laid down on his butt. So it wasn't like I brought down force. I actually stopped momentum so the force wouldn't be as much. And it still worked. So that is what I was trying to do a lot of the times with him. Or not even a lot of the times. I think a total of 5 times in this session, that's what I did. So I'd swing it and then I'd slow it down in midair to stop that momentum, so there would be less force up on his rear end. Overall, I'm trying to make as less mistakes as possible and train him in a way that's going to better our relationship and performance together. But seeing as I am just now building a new method to training and doing research and stuff, this is really going to be a slow process, and I've decided that if at any point I feel like I'm in over my head or I feel like I'm messing something up, then I'm going to send him off to a trainer who I trust and know will do what I need. So I have trained numerous horses, especially babies myself, which were mainly negative reinforcement methods. I'm totally confident I can do this, especially learning everything, what not to do with Jake anyway. So, and everybody I've talked to, all the trainers I have talked to, have encouraged me to try to do it myself. They believe in me. One trainer who I work with consistently, who I get advice from consistently, she literally like sat me down and was like, listen, I know you can do this. You know you can do this. You need to stop stressing about it, because I stress a lot. I don't want to ruin Benton like I did Jake. While I love Jake and he's a pretty good horse, things could have went way differently if I would have just was able to get the help I needed. So anyway, that's why I am putting out all my mistakes with Benton, because I want people to see who I really am, my thoughts, and all the mistakes I make. We're all human. So in this session, towards the end especially, I used way more of the whip than I would have liked, and I'm saying that in all honesty. However, I didn't specifically whip him harshly or really use the whip on him himself a whole lot. And so with that being said, I still used it more than what I wish I would have been able to. So after this session, I took a big step back and we're going to try again. and figure some things out and just kind of take it day by day, definitely, and do what we can. So it could have been definitely a lot worse, in my opinion. But overall, I feel like he did really well. Especially for what... Right here's a good example is what I was talking about as far as not really whipping him very hard, even though it looks like it. I take that back. In this video, it looks a lot harder than what it felt in my hand. So he got stuck in that corner and did not want to move, and that was his way of telling me we're done. So I should have gone about that differently, I'll admit. However, I did figure out after that we're going to call it an end because he didn't want to work. So that was pretty much the end of me asking him to do a whole lot. I kind of got frustrated during the session, not gonna lie. I didn't whip him full force. I kind of just let it fall on him, and yeah, I'm not very happy about the end of this session. I'm not at all. And I'm not gonna delete it because it's a mistake I made, and definitely could have been a lot worse. That stop right there was phenomenal. And then my goal right here, turning him around in my head, my goal was to keep him going past the gate and have him not stop. In my head, that's what I was wanting, and he did for the most part. However, he didn't really want to get up into a trot, which I can't blame him. I think I added too much on his plate for today. I think I asked him to do more than what I needed to, and I still need to take baby steps with him. I feel like in my head he already knows the trotting, even though this is only his second day of trotting. So like right here he gets mad, and so I'm just kind of laying it on him. And I do want to point out, not trying to stick up for myself, but that is literally all sand and dust in the round pen and in the arena. So when anything hits on him, like, it looks like I hit him way harder than what I did because of all the dust and sand. Like, you can see all the dust coming up just from the rope on the whip laying around, so yeah, it puffs up, but it's not because I hit him super super hard. I'm not gonna say I hit him light, but because of that, it looks like I hit him harder than what I did. So I do want to say that, but I shouldn't have. I could have found a better way to do all that. So we're gonna try again. I feel like I didn't cause any issues mentally with him, so hopefully we can reset everything and keep going. So right there he went all the way around, so I decided we're gonna call that quits. And like I do all the time, I work with him a little bit before I go into taking him out. I like to love on him. Especially today, I really, really, really wanted to love on him and give him the chance to show him that, hey, work is work, but I do love you, and I don't want anything to have issues. So I noticed that I felt like his legs looked a little big to me. I don't think they were swollen. I think I was just imagining it, but I went ahead and put some dried out mud on there. So that was kind of our bonding moment, if you will, from work. I put it all over his knees and his ankles and his hocks and his stifles and all over his legs. I just wanted to help with anything that was going on. This is only his third day of work, so I figured, he may be a little sore and he could use it. So we went ahead and did that. Overall, the beginning of the session I was really proud of. As it went on, I kind of got a little more disappointed, more in myself. He didn't do anything to disappoint me at all. I think I'm still stuck in my negative reinforcement ways, especially from when I started training babies. So a lot of how I was taught to train babies was more of a, harsher way of doing things, and I need to get out of that mindset. So I think I've done a pretty good job getting out of that mindset to begin with, but there's still a lot I need to work on. And so this Benton's Life to Fame is going to be a great series for y'all to see me as a person, my mistakes. I'm not going to cut anything out just because I feel like it's harsh or anything like that. I'm not that type of person. I want y'all to see everything, and I want y'all to love me for who I am and the way I train and all the changes that I'm trying to make. So I hope, again, that y'all like this series. We're going to take a step back, rethink a little bit, and then go along with what needs to be done next time around. So I hope y'all love Benton as much as I do. I hope y'all are enjoying his journey so far. I'm pretty proud of him, and I can't wait to see what he turns into when he's older. I'll probably end up doing a lot more work. He has surgery coming up. He's got to have his wolf teeth removed so we can use a bit. However, I feel like I'm going to try to work more towards bridleless work with him and really focus on the body and things like that. But all the information is to come as he gets older and as our training sessions move along. I can't wait for y'all to see that. And again, like I've said before, we have Benton merch coming next year, or next month, really. We have Benton merch coming, so be looking out for that. All the proceeds go towards Benton himself to pay for feed, hay, boarding, all that type of stuff, just to help out with cost of horses. And don't forget, we will be having a video of what a horse cost closer to February. Ever since I bought Benton last year in February, I have saved all of his receipts, and we're going to add all those up and see how much Benton cost in a year. So be looking forward to that. I'm super excited about that alone. And I'm not really super excited to see how much he is in a year, because wow, he's going to be an expensive guy. So anyway, I hope y'all like it. I hope y'all like this series, and I hope that we get to see you again next time.